All right, I'm going to show you a couple different ways to use Google Cloud to set up a lab environment for labs. The first step is if you log into Google Cloud, it should look something like this. You might have to set up your account initially. You might have to put a credit card number in. It won't charge you if you have credits. For most of my courses, use very few of your credits because we just use a Linux machine for the most part. But if you go to your projects up at the top, I generally, for each class, I'll create a new project. That way I have all my resources for that project in one place. So I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to call this one Rowan, just so I can keep it all in one place. I'm going to create that project. So now it's going to get this little thing that's going to swirl around for a while, and I can select that project. So now I'm in my Rowan project. And once I'm in that Rowan project, and tell up here in the upper left, I'm in that project. I'm going to click the hamburger up here. You've got a whole bunch of different options in here. So to create my VM, my virtual machines for my projects, I'm going to come over here to Compute Engine. And when that comes up in the Compute Engine, and you could just go directly to your VMs by clicking VM Instances from the hamburger menu as well. But really, VM Instances is where I want to go. I have to, once you land in this the first time in a project, you'll have to enable the Compute Engine in order to use it the first time. So I'll click on that. And again, if you haven't put a credit card number in yet, set up your account, this is the time it may ask you to do that. So this will take a couple seconds for this to run. All right, now that it's done creating my my workspace, I can go, when I go into VM Instances, I've got an option to create a new instance. So I'm going to click on Create Instance. And first you have to give it a name. So I'm going to call this one, I don't know. We'll just do, I'm going to take out their default. I'm going to call it PA1 for Practical Assignment 1. Doesn't really matter what region you pick. I just usually recommend going consistent. Whatever region you start with, maybe just keep that region. It'll make things easier going forward. But you can certainly choose a different region if you wanted to. And I usually just leave it to any zone. When you scroll down here for your virtual machines, I usually I keep it on the E2 virtual machine. It's the, I mean, yours may default to something else, but E2 is going to be the least expensive. Now you can see over here it's estimating $25.46 a month. But if I come down here and go to custom, I can adjust these. I can also go to the presets, and under presets, if I do a micro, that makes a really small VM, and you can see it's only $7.11. Now that's assuming you run this machine all the time, right? So if you ran this machine 24/7 for a month, it'll cost you $7.11 on average. Everything else really you can leave default. We want to use Debian 12, which is the default, so I don't really have to change that. But if I wanted to, and I go to OS and storage, I could go in here and choose a different operating system. I'm going to leave mine on Debian 12 because that seems to work the best. I know in some of my labs the instructions say to use CentOS, but most of them I've transitioned to Debian, and most of the assignments that I give should work fine in Debian. Even if it says CentOS in the instructions, they'll work fine in Debian. So once we do all this, we just hit this create button down here at the bottom, and that's going to create the virtual machine. There is one other thing that you could change if you go into your disk. This one's set to balance persistent, but you could also do a standard persistent disk if you wanted to, but the cheapest one is going to be balance persistent. So we'll go ahead and create that VM. It's going to take a minute or two for it to create, so it's going to kind of swirl around for a while it's creating the VM.
So once it's been created, you'll see it gives you an external IP address, an internal IP. I'm going to come over here to SSH, and if I click on that, it'll open up a separate window, and this will SSH me into that virtual machine. Now, this little SSH tool isn't great. There's a lot of things you can't do with it that might be useful. Also, if you want to use other tools, like you want to be able to copy files and things like that. So this will get you in, but really you just get in and get access. So the first thing that I'll usually do is create a new account. Sudo will work, so we can use the sudo command to make sure we're running as root. And I'm going to create a new account. I'm just going to call mine Brian. Actually, sorry, it's add user Brian. So this is one way you can do it. It'll kind of prompt you for adding a password. So let me add the password. You don't have have to put in your full name. Alright, so now I've got this new user, Brian, and it's got a password, so it's ready to go. Got to have that first in order to log in with something other than Google. And then I'm going to set up SSH so I can SSH directly to this virtual machine from my computer. To do that, I make sure SSH is set up. So we're going to use sudo bi, and the configuration file for SSH is going to be under SSH sshd config. So I'm going to go into that file with vi, and I'm going to edit it. And the things I want to edit in here, if I scroll down, password authentication, we're going to set to a yes. So I'm going to use I for insert. So I click I, it puts me in insert mode, changes it to a yes. I'm going to hit escape, then a colon to put me back in command. Well, escape puts me in command mode. Colon means I'm going to put a command in. In this case, it's going to be W for write my changes, Q for quit, and an exclamation point says don't ask me, just let me quit. So once we do that, I should now be able to restart my service, my SSH service. So I'm going to use sudo, use the systemctl command, which we learn about in a lot of my classes. If you're not familiar with it, it's okay, but this is how we're going to restart SSHD. We're going to restart SSHD. That should have restarted it. And now, since I'm on Windows, I'm going to use the terminal, and I'm going to SSH to Brian at, and I need the IP address, which is going to be back here. So I'm going to copy the external IP address. And this should allow me to SSH directly to my machine right from Windows. So I'm going to say yes to accept the certificate. And I'm in as Brian, right? So I connected as Brian, and now I can do everything I would normally do. Now here's the problem: if you want to run something as root, you have to know the root password. So I'm going to set the root password. And once I do that, now I can come back over here and use the su command, and I'm in this root. So I have access to root to do whatever I want.